feeling a little better today. A couple days removed from Sunday.
Yeah.
A couple days removed from Sunday.
After the win.
Yeah. So, after a win, feeling a little better today.
Yeah.
And then the baseball brass spoke.
Yes.
Jackie Baseball, holla at your boy.
Going to be a big offseason, boys.
Yeah?
Big offseason. A lot of moves.
Big.
Juan Soto, come on down.
Yeah. Well, so we're going to need you dialed in here, Fritzy boy.
Okay.
I know you're always pressing buttons and stuff over there, but, your input will be necessary here. I was excited to hear Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thompson today. I usually find both of them, specifically Dave Dombrowski, to be honest. And I know they can't tell us everything, but I've usually found Dave Dombrowski to be more honest and more straightforward and more transparent than most general managers are. We do have some here, and I know their job isn't to be honest all the time, but I find Dave Dombrowski to be a good speaker and very aware of the situation that he's in. So I was excited to hear him talk today. And he leads off the press conference with the fact that they've given Rob Thompson an extension. And we all talked last week about the idea of moving on for Rob Thompson. We all thought there was a lot of merit there. But I'm not mad that they kept Rob Thompson, they kept the coaches. It's fine, whatever. I expected it. And the fact that they gave him an extension is just... It's good managing, right? You don't want the guy going into a year with a lame duck contract. That doesn't do anyone any favor. So the fact that he extended him, I don't think is very much news. The thing that bothered me a lot, and I was incredibly disappointed with what Dave Dombrowski said today, largely, and I was disappointed also with what Rob Thompson said today, and I was very surprised at Dombrowski, is that Dombrowski sounded exactly the same way the players did after they lost to the Mets. It was a lot of excuses. It was a lot of hot team. It was a lot of sort of nonsense and no answers. No answers about what went wrong this year, not just against the New York Mets, but what went wrong from June, July, August, September, and then the series against the Mets. There was a lot of that's baseball, a lot of it's hard to be good for an entire season. The same things the players said that does not acknowledge the fact that they have had less success in the playoffs the last 3 years, have gone from getting to the World Series to getting to the LCS to being embarrassed by the New York Mets, and no introspection about the fact that it happened the same way 3 straight years. He was asked about the players chasing pitches out of the zone. And here's what Dombrowski had to say.
It's interesting, and I know a theme is chase rate, right? I mean, everybody I read in here writes about chase rate. I think it was interesting. We got eliminated. We were 6th in major of the 12 clubs in chase rate in the postseason. And so that's not good, but it's not the worst.
Oh.
We didn't hit. We really didn't hit. Some of it's chase, some of it's approach, some of it's guys not being hot. We actually, if you looked at it, we chased less than the Mets did in that series, percentage-wise.
Wow.
They didn't feel that way.
They got some big hits, and we didn't. And so it's something that we're cognizant of. It's something we'll continue to try to address. But the reality is we have a good lineup. I think we were in the top 5 in Major League Baseball in runs scored, and we'll continue to strive to be better. But I also think that a lot of clubs are vulnerable to being pitched well.
So I don't want to hear that what the question is. The question isn't about specific chase rate in that series, because we saw both teams, and one team hit well and the other team didn't hit well. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we all saw that. I don't want to hear that the Mets had a worse chase rate and we didn't have the worst chase rate in all of the Major League playoffs. And so when you acknowledge that the same thing happened and it's the same problems with the same coaching staff, really I see 3 paths for the Phillies here. One, they're bringing back the exact same team and the exact same coaching staff and expecting something to be different. Two,
sounds like the definition of insanity.
well,
People
some would say
that.
Yes, some would say. Two, that they're making major roster changes that he just can't acknowledge, but he knows that it's the lineup. Or three, that they're going to tinker here and there, and maybe there's a slight change that they can make. I do not see a world in which, without significant expenditure from a financial and an asset and a prospect, way, that they can make significant changes to the lineup. Yeah. So and he also said this about just sort of like getting hot at the right time.
What is the missing piece you felt like for this year's team?
Well, I don't think that's to me, the answer is not the missing piece. The answer is playing well at the right time.
Oh.
And so when you say that, I've always felt you go out there with 4 good starting pitchers, right? Well, we have 4 good starting pitchers. You go out there with a good bullpen. Our bullpen didn't pitch well. It just didn't. I mean, that's the way it is. But I really thought going into the postseason that it's an incorrect judgment by me and by a lot of us that we thought our bullpen would. That's what you're looking to do. We didn't score enough runs. We just did not. I mean, we scored runs in 1 game. We did not score runs in 3 games. And so you go back in the past years, there's some games we scored runs and there's other games we didn't. But you really have to play well at the right time.
Well, what we're asking, yes. So the final thing here.
Yes.
Final thing. Because I listened to it just getting more frustrated as it went on. So then I listened to Rob Thompson. And Rob Thompson was also, both Dombrowski and Rob Thompson made it a point to say, they did say this, we need to do better using the entire field. Now, forget for a second that all of their hitters are over 30 and are not. We remember how many times we talked about Ryan Howard changing his approach at the plate. It doesn't happen. You're not going to learn how to become Tony Gwynn at 32 years old. Nick Castellanos is not going to all of a sudden be spraying the ball all over the place. So somebody asked Rob Thompson, is this something that you stress to the team during the year?
You mentioned the importance of using the whole field, hitting the ball the other way. How much of a focus was that? Like how, much was that message delivered to the guys?
I think that message was delivered almost on a daily basis. And I think you just have to get them to slow the game down at times and stay in that approach. Be cognizant that the pitchers are going to try and get you to chase because that's what the numbers say. If you stay with that approach, I think you cut down on chase. I think you get more base hits, and I think you score more runs.
So, Ike, I will shut up here, but I will ask you the question.
You're doing so well.
If they have the same players and with coaches that did not listen to a message that was given to them, literally every single day, how is it going to be any different? If our boss Rod told us every single day, you have to take this break at 15. Every day he told us. And year after year, we did not break at 15. In what world in the next year are we going to start doing it? Do you know what I'm saying? It's just like I understand that Dave Dombrowski may have a rabbit in his hat somewhere, but I just don't think his answers were good enough, were introspective enough, or acknowledged enough what the issues are on the baseball team. So that's my frustration with what Dave Dombrowski said.
Yeah, and here's my frustration with hearing both Dave Dombrowski and Topper today. By the way, you've mentioned this. I'll echo the same thing because I wholeheartedly believe this. I like both Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thompson. I really do. Yeah, I really do. Yeah, did I last week feel that a change was needed if you wanted to change your results? I still believe that. And it would have been unfortunate if Rob Thompson's job was sacrificed because his players let him down. But that's on his players. Now, how much he contributed to that by not enforcing certain things or getting them to change their approach, then him losing his job would have been a result of that. So I come away from today being more frustrated and really disheartened when I think about the future of this team. Because for me, I feel like the window is closed for us to win a championship. Now, will they be a good team next year? I'm sure they should be. They pretty much bringing the same damn roster back next year. I don't expect everybody to fall apart. But I also don't expect this team to actually change who their DNA is as a baseball team. And sometimes, and I was okay with this, by the way. I was okay with this. But now I'm at the point where I realize it's not going to be good enough. I was okay with them being who they are, right? And they're a slugging team, and that's what they do. You know what? 2 years in a row, discounting the first year they got to the World Series, the slugging wasn't there. The run producing wasn't there when it needed to be in the clutch moments. Maybe this just ain't the group, right? You may have some players here that you can go win with, but I don't know if the total makeup of this team and this roster is championship caliber. And that's where I'm disheartened right now. I hope this was a lot of lip service today. I hope Dave Dombrowski has a rabbit in his hat that he's going to find a way to change something with this lineup, change something with this team where it has a different feel going into next year. But what you're basically asking us to do is trust and believe that we have the right people here, the right team, the right core. This team is good enough to win the World Series, and we're going to go do it next year. That's essentially what you're saying. That's because if you don't make major changes, you're going to make minor changes, and I don't know how many of those minor changes you can make to where it has a real live impact. If your key core guys can't produce late in the year when they need to, whether it's moving runners, whether it's getting a base hit, whether it's taking pitches, getting a walk, whatever it may be. They don't do it as well as the Diamondbacks did last year and the Mets did to us this year. Two teams that we would say, on paper, we have the more talented roster. And it wasn't good enough to beat those guys. Why should I believe next year is going to be any different? I just don't believe it.
215-592-9494. What did you think of Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thompson essentially saying we just need to be hot at the right time next year?